After the attacks of September 11, 2001, the practice of extraordinary rendition, or sending terrorism suspects to third countries, often for torture, increased dramatically. In effect, the US government set up a series of what are called black sites, or secret prisons, in what amounted to a global gulag system of disappeared and tortured prisoners. A number of books and movies have documented various components of this American gulag system. One of these books, Ghost Plane by journalist Stephen Gray, relates part of the story of how these secret prisons and the flights used to transfer prisoners among them were discovered. A group of people called plane spotters, whose hobby is to stand outside airports and record airplane identification numbers, were at the beginning of this story. The romance of identifying planes headed off to far corners of the globe received an enormous high-tech boost with the advent of the internet. Now, plane spotters around the world could post their observations of plane movements online, forming a sort of global network that kept track of international air traffic. A few intrepid journalists began to notice that some aircraft observed by plane spotters were making regular appearances at places where terrorism suspects were known to be held, such as Guantanamo Bay in Cuba and Bagram Air Force Base in Afghanistan, among a number of other places. Soon, enabled by this new technology, a picture began to emerge of a transportation infrastructure that was being used to ferry prisoners among these secret sites. Gray, in his book, hypothesizes that for this network of secret prisons to exist overseas, there must also be a corresponding network of support facilities and infrastructure here in the United States. And while this domestic support infrastructure is not a mirror image of the secret torture sites that exist overseas, the correspondence between the domestic and international infrastructure can lead to useful clues, such as the kind the plane spotters contributed. It was this question that led me to drive out to some secret air bases deep in the Nevada desert that the CIA had used and may still be using for these secret renditions. And we're going to see if we can take a look at this base camp, which was originally established in the 1960s by the Air Force, in that they were looking for an alternative location for nuclear bomb tests, because I guess people in Las Vegas were complaining about the chandeliers being rattled by nuclear bomb explosions.
Town atom test measured a model village in the Nevada desert against the awesome power of nuclear energy.
The sound and shock waves roll over the men huddled in the trenches. Never before have we had such a close-up view. Lighting up the desert skies for miles around, the fierce fireball flare is the signal for instant action.
Offering new hope to all who live in the shadow of the atomic age.
So they did that for a while out here, and then they decided that this wasn't a good location either, and then nobody really knows what it was being used for after that, whether it was kind of an emergency landing strip for experimental military aircraft that were being tested at Area 51. But plane spotters have spotted a number of airplanes out at this base camp that have subsequently been seen at Guantanamo Bay, in Afghanistan, flying into northern Iraq from Turkey, an Air Force base in the east of Turkey there, as well as a number of other places where prisoners have disappeared. So it seems like this is some kind of support location out here, but we're going to take a look and see what we can find out.
Sister, what you've done to the burning.
If history shows anything, it confirms that these kinds of government abuses of power, once begun, will migrate back to the societies that originated them, unless they are actively and vigorously opposed by people of conscience. One airbase, called Base Camp, was quiet while I was there, except for what looked like a few maintenance personnel. And while, as far as we know, friends and neighbors are not disappearing in the middle of the night here in the US at present, still, friends and neighbors are without a doubt contributing to this system of torture and forced disappearances. The method that journalists such as Gray used to piece together the story of secret flights to torture prisons while publicly available was still complex and involved, employing sophisticated analytical software coordinated between numerous websites. I began to wonder if there wasn't some way that ordinary people dispersed around the globe could more effectively and easily coordinate these observations to rapidly reveal these kinds of activities before we have to confront these practices on our own doorsteps, and in the process create a form of accountability that has, until now, been absent from our government's most secret and closely guarded programs and activities.
To whom can I talk in the wasteland behind my hand? Will you realize your love is one big ego trip? And will you stop and gulping down and start to